Your weather API works perfectly in development, but Claude Desktop can't access the environment variables it needs to run in production. You'll see exactly how to configure a FastMCP server with required API keys and debug flags, using the mcpServers JSON structure to pass environment variables directly to your isolated server process.
mcpServers, weather server, command Python, args // weather server pi, env API key, your API key, debug true.
This demonstrates the configuration as code pattern for server management. The JSON structure defines a complete server environment declaratively, including execution commands, arguments, and environment variables in a single portable file. What makes this distinctive is the separation of deployment concerns from application logic, allowing the same server code to run in different contexts without modification. The pattern works by externalizing runtime parameters into a structured configuration. FastMCP uses this blueprint to construct the execution environment, handling dependency isolation, environment variable injection, and process management automatically. This declarative approach contrasts with imperative setup scripts, making deployments more reproducible and version controllable. This approach matters because it solves the "it works on my machine" problem for AI tooling. By capturing all runtime requirements in a single file, you eliminate hidden dependencies and environment drift between development and production. It's particularly valuable for AI integrations where the execution environment is strictly controlled, as with Claude Desktop's isolated server sandbox. The trade-off is initial setup complexity, but the payoff is reliable, repeatable deployments across different systems. Let's break it down line by line. This opens a JSON configuration object. The outer curly braces define the root structure for mcpServer configurations, allowing nested key-value pairs that specify server behavior and environment settings.
mcpServers
defines the top-level key for mcpServer configurations. This follows FastMCP's convention, where all server definitions live under mcpServers, enabling centralized management of multiple server instances in a single config file.
weather server
This defines a named server configuration under the mcpServers object. The key, weather server, acts as an identifier for this specific service, allowing FastMCP to reference and manage it independently from other servers in the configuration. This follows the standard pattern for declaring discrete services in MCP's multi-server architecture.
command Python
Specifies the executable to run the server process. This is the entry point command that launches the Python script, defining the runtime environment for the mcpServer.
args // weather server pi
Specifies the command line arguments for the server process. This array passes the script path to the Python interpreter, defining exactly which module to execute as the mcpServer. Without this, the interpreter wouldn't know which application to start.
env
The env key defines environment variables for the server process. This injects configuration at runtime without hard-coding sensitive values or environment-specific settings, enabling consistent behavior across development, staging, and production. The pattern mirrors Docker's environment variable system and is critical for 12-factor app compliance.
API key, your API key.
This injects the API key environment variable for the weather server. Required for authenticating with external weather APIs, preventing unauthorized access to the service. The value should be replaced with your actual API key in production.
Debug, true.
This environment variable enables debug mode, providing detailed logging and error information during development. Critical for troubleshooting server-side issues, but should be disabled in production to prevent exposing sensitive system details. Follows the common pattern of using environment variables for runtime configuration. This closing brace terminates the env dictionary, completing the environment variable configuration for the weather server service. It ensures all specified variables are properly contained within the service definition, maintaining clean JSON structure. This closing brace terminates the weather server configuration block, completing the server definition within the mcpServers object. It ensures proper JSON structure by closing the nested object scope, which is required for valid configuration parsing. Closing brace terminates the env dictionary and completes the weather server configuration block. This maintains valid JSON structure, ensuring the configuration parser correctly interprets the nested server settings. This closing brace terminates the JSON configuration object for the mcpServer definition. It ensures proper structure, preventing syntax errors when the configuration is parsed. Server configuration pattern. This JSON configuration defines how FastMCP servers are launched and managed, specifying commands, arguments, and environment variables in a declarative format that bridges local development and production deployment. Environment variables must be explicitly defined in the configuration, as the server execution context has no access to your shell environment or locally installed applications. The separation between server definition and execution context enables consistent behavior across different deployment scenarios.
The configuration that disappears into the environment becomes the environment itself.